Hello and welcome to Super Saturdays, a comic book media podcast where each episode will be focusing on your favorite comic books, TV shows, and movies to figure out if these projects will stand the test of time. I'm Damon A, and on today's episode, I'm joined by.
Hi, everybody. I'm Freddy from DMV Comic Book Nerds.
All right, on with the show. Right, how you doing today, Freddie?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited to chat with you, my friend. We've chatted a couple times before, but it's my first time on the podcast, so thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm glad that you were able to make it.
Of course, glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about DMV Comic Book Nerds.
Sure. So DMV Comic Book Nerds, it's a fan club and podcast connecting comic book nerds around the DMV area, which is primarily DC, Maryland, and Virginia. But I'm happy to connect with people all over the world. And already, since we started in March of 2023, I've met a lot of cool people and had a couple of fun podcasts. And most of the podcasts were last year, but we're still in January 2024. Anything could happen. So, yeah.
All right, dope. As always, I love talking with you, Freddie. You're really cool. And I'm so glad to have you on for our Riverdale episode. So, Freddie, are you ready to talk a little bit and dive into our news roundup?
Yes, I am.
All right. All right. So, uh, Daredevil Born Again. At the time of this recording, more information has come out about Daredevil Born Again. A while ago, we heard that they chopped a lot of shit from the show. They fired the entire team. They were like starting fresh, and within the last couple of days, we found out that Deborah Ann Wong and
Henson,
Eldon
Eldon
Henson
Henson, I
is
think.
coming back as Foggy. And then today, and also a little bit yesterday, some rumors, I think they're getting close to being confirmed, talked about how Wilson
Wilson
Bethel,
Bethel. Yeah, I
yes,
think.
Wilson Bethel is going to be back as Bullseye. So Freddie, are you excited for Daredevil Born Again?
Hell yeah! I love Daredevil. Big Daredevil fan. Read a lot of the comic books. Watched all the show on Netflix. And all I watch all the Marvel stuff. So well, not all of it, but most of it. So I'm excited for that one for sure.
No, I remember watching when I remember in the first season when Daredevil first came out. I was still in high school when it first came out, and I
What?
remember.
You're such a baby.
Yeah. So I remember I was in high school and I was watching season one during my classes on my tablet in class. I remember that I was hella excited. And then I just remember, like, I have really fond memories with the Netflix Marvel shit. I'm going to be honest, Soups. I did not finish Daredevil season three.
Well, then you've got homework before Born Again.
I really do. I really do. I remember I was like, think I got like the episode. I got a couple episodes in, but it was a lot slower pace than the previous seasons. And then I don't know if it's just me or maybe I need to look back at it. But like at the time, I remember watching it and I was thinking about how cinematography wise, it looked a lot different than the previous seasons. It didn't look as like cinematic, I guess.
In my opinion, it picks up. I'm not sure where you left off, but season three, it might start a little slow, but it definitely picks up, and it's got some standout moments for the whole series. Like I can't even begin to praise like one particular scene. You'll know when you get there. Like I'm not
Ooh,
going to
okay.
spoil anything, but actually, there's several standout moments for me. Season three, and just like the whole arc of it. Like I really liked season three. I liked them all, but yeah, I mean, they were different because I think each season had like a different showrunner. I'm not quite sure.
I think so. I think so. I know season two, they had a completely different showrunner for season two, which is why like it kind of was just disjointed. Which is why like for me, I I kind of like season two. I kind of like season
I like,
two.
yeah, I like them all, man. Like I like. Okay, so season one, you got Daredevil's like origin, and you're introduced to him in his world. Season two, you've got Elektra, you've got Punisher. Like that's dope. You got the hand and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Season three, uh, I don't know what to say about season three because I don't want to spoil anything.
I,
But
I
I
I know
mean,
Bullseye's in there, and then they adapted a lot of
Bullseye.
Born Again in there. And like I know a couple of different things. I also ended up seeing like that last scene where he beats the Kingpin. I spoiled myself for it, but like I season two, I don't think it was as bad as everybody said it was. I think
Oh yeah,
did the
it's nowhere near bad in my book. Like it's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think there was
um,
like a couple of different problems, but like I didn't think it was bad. Like it still was nice. I loved Elodie Young as Electra. That was great.
Me too. Yeah,
Uh,
they should bring her back. I hope they bring
yes,
her back for Born Again.
I hope they
Like,
do.
I mean, I I I don't know what people's problems were with season two. I mean, I have heard complaints about it, but like mostly I just hear praise for Daredevil. Like out of all the Netflix shows, I think people like Daredevil the most. Really, I personally like. I mean, I love Daredevil. I also love Luke Cage.
I love
I
Luke Cage.
also and I watched the first two seasons of Jessica Jones. I like the first one. I kind of didn't like the second one.
That's what
but
I heard about Jessica Jones, and then like I heard a lot of people didn't watch season three of Jessica Jones,
didn't watch
and
it.
I know that like at least for me, I'm gonna be honest. I think they shouldn't have killed the Purple Man in season one of Jessica Jones. I think they should have like I don't want to say milked it, but like just come up with something different, I guess. You know what? Maybe we should do another episode doing a retrospective on the Netflix Marvel stuff. That because I can talk about this for a while.
Right? Me too.
Yeah, on some real shit. So our next piece of news is Rachel Brosnahan spoke out about what to expect with her Lois Lane in Superman Legacy. She said that her Lois is going to be feisty, marvelous, and fiercely intelligent. So have you been keeping up with Superman Legacy, Freddie?
I have not.
Really? Okay.
I'm not really the person to ask about the James Gunn DCU. Like I'll just wait and see. I can't really say I'm too hyped for it personally, but I respect other people's hype.
Okay. Were you more of like a DCEU fan?
It's not even that. Um, if you like, should I be 100%?
Keep it 100. Keep it 100.
All right. Well, I mean, I've talked about it a little bit on my podcast, but I just have such a bitter taste in my mouth from everything that's happened over the past couple of years with WB, with the Flash, with canceling Batgirl, with flopping Blue Beetle. I liked Blue Beetle. I kind of thought that deserved better. Um, it's just been rough times for DC, and but like the guy who's made it rough, like David Zaslav, he's still in charge,
Points.
and James Gunn answers to him, and like I don't know what we're gonna get from that, but I mean I hope that it's good, because I mean if I'll be there for Superman regardless, but I'm not particularly excited for like another Superman reboot. Like I mean I love Superman, don't get me wrong, but it's just like we've seen a bunch of Superman interpretations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, like I said, I'll wait and see. Like I don't really. I mean, we just lived through a writer and actor strike, and like all this stuff. So like, and then like Warner Brothers is losing money left and right. I don't know how they're gonna make good movies coming up soon, but let's hope and pray, because we
That's
all love a good
understandable.
movie.
That's understandable in points. I do agree that there's a lot of like things in Warner Brothers slash DC's corner from all the mistakes that they've done within the last couple of years, and I'm still not kind of mad. I'm still really bothered by the way that they really handled the Ray Fisher thing. Uh like that.
Yeah.
But I still have hope that James Gunn's stuff is going to be good. I'm a little hyped for Superman primarily because Rachel Brosnahan was my fan cast for Lois ever since watching Miss Maisel. But I guess we'll figure it out. We'll find out. But I do agree though. Blue Beetle was good as hell. Like I was pleasantly surprised when I went to go see that. Like pleasantly surprised. What was your first exposure to Archie and the Riverdale gang? And then also, what was your first exposure to the show?
Okay, good questions. So first I gotta say I'm repping my Archie shirt. I'll try to hold it to the camera, but the camera keeps moving. But
For the soups that are
yeah,
listening on the apps, Freddie's wearing an Archie shirt.
yeah, it's got most of the main characters from the comics. Archie, Betty, Veronica, and everybody, Jughead. But um, yeah, so I loved Archie comics for a long time. Like I remember being a kid and going to the grocery store and seeing like little Archie Digest books in the store, like when you're waiting for the cash register. So like I would be like, I want one of those. And I would like check those out. And actually, me and my sister, my older sister, we would both read them. And like we had a lot of Archie comic books back in the day. I don't know what happened to them; they're all gone now. But I think I gave them away somewhere along the way. But it was good times. So of course, when they finally made a TV show, I had to watch it. Like I had been waiting since a kid. Like I remember there were like letter columns in like the Archie books, and people would be asking like, when is Archie gonna get a movie or a TV show? And they would speculate about who would be in it, and they would talk about it being in development, but it never came about for like decades. So 2017, I think we finally get Riverdale, and there's a lot of buzz about it. uh, I mean, you watched it. I've watched it. I think we all know it starts out very different from the comic books, and it really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, from what I remember. But I was always willing to give it a chance, and so now here I am, 7 years later. Love the show.
Damn, 7 years later.
Because
Oh my
yeah,
god.
last year, 2023, I podcasted the final season of Riverdale on DMV Comic Book Nerds with a couple friends, and like yeah, like I didn't podcast any of the other seasons because, I mean, there were other podcasts out there. I hadn't gotten into podcasting yet, but um, I had to do that last season just because I was so excited for it, and it was a good time. Like it was crazy. If you think this first episode was crazy, it gets crazier.
Okay. No, this first episode was something, but we'll talk about it. We will talk about because I have notes. I have some shit in my notes about this first episode. But my first exposure to Archie was, I gotta say, either the Josie and the Pussycats movie with Rachel Leigh Cook
Oh yeah,
and
great
Rosario
movie.
Dawson. I loved that movie growing up. I did. I think it was that. I also think it was Archie's Weird Mysteries. I loved that show.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a DVD of that show. I regret getting rid of it. Um, and I would also say like I would every now and then I would get the Archie digests, but I also the biggest connection I would say would have to be Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Just growing up.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention. I grew up on the '90s Melissa Joan
Yes.
Hart series. I used to watch TGIF. Like I love that show, and I don't know if I realized until like I don't know when I realized that Sabrina was part of the Archieverse, but it wasn't like obvious from the show alone. Like you never saw a crossover with like Archie, but but props to Sabrina for like making the brand popular at that time because there was nothing else. Like there was the comics, but there were no other Archie shows at that time.
Exactly. Which you really would think there would have been. I think Archie is a property that like is literally primed for more content, but they just didn't do anything with it, which is surprising. I could have like by now you would think there'd be like lots of different interpretations of Archie, but aside from Riverdale, all we have is that kind of crappy made for TV movie back in the 90s or 80s or whatever.
Well, I gotta say, they did just come out with a new movie called The Archies. It's like
Yes.
the Indian Bollywood movie. Like I've watched it. I gotta say it's interesting. I kind of like it.
I still haven't watched it. I know you were telling me a little bit about it. You ready to dive into Riverdale?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, well, let's dive in. Uh, all right, so let's get into this summary. Riverdale reels from the tragic death of Jason Blossom, a high school student. New student Veronica Lodge arrives in town, and Cheryl Blossom stirs up trouble among the others while keeping a few secrets of her own. What? I just copy and pasted that from Wikipedia. Hold up, wait a minute. Am I reading this correctly? One more time. Riverdale reels.
Take two.
That summary is very brief. That does not cover all of the stuff that happens in this episode.
Oh, wait till you see the rest of the episode descriptions for Riverdale. Like, they will have the briefest, most vague sentence, and the most crazy shit will happen. Like, you'll be like, what? Like you won't know what happened based off of the episode descriptions. You can't go by that.
Exactly, because like that just like I would assume this was a filler episode or some shit. I would have assumed this was a filler. It doesn't even mention. It mentions nothing. Okay, it doesn't even mention Archie having this affair with this older teacher, which
it doesn't even mention Archie.
At all, actually. Okay, so since we're up here kind of like talking shit about the show, just a little bit. What was having to rewatch this episode, what were your thoughts? Like your initial thoughts?
All right, so I gotta say that I watched this episode for the first time for this podcast. Like, it was the first time I had seen it since I watched like the finale. I had podcasted season 7. I hadn't revisited the pilot until now, so this was very interesting to have that hindsight, you know. So I got a lot to say. I don't know if you want me to, you know, go in order or take turns or.
I mean, just your initial thoughts before you go into full-on thoughts.
Initial thoughts. I mean, I still enjoy it. I mean, there are things I don't enjoy at all. But Riverdale's always a show with like ups and downs, the highs and lows of high school football and such. So I don't know if you get that reference yet, but you will if you keep watching.
You know, my initial thoughts of this episode. Okay, I got some notes right here in front of me. I didn't take too big of notes, primarily because the sentences of the notes like was big moments. Like, it's like one page full of notes, but a lot is said on this one page of notes. Okay,
I'm sure. Yeah. I didn't even take any notes. Like, I rewatched it. I made mental notes of like things that I might want to talk about, but I'm ready to hear what you've got to say.
Okay, so my initial thoughts on this episode. I think it was a good opener. It was a good pilot. I'll give it that. And I also feel like I noticed that I forgot. Okay, you know, I'll say this. I remember watching this when it came on CW, and I remember I was excited, and I watched it that night, and I remember being really excited because I got off of school because I was still in high school when this came out, and I was a high school senior. This is important. This came out in 2017. This is very important. So, Archie and the gang are supposed to be sophomores. So they're all about 15, right? Why the hell? And I'm jumping all over the place, Soups. Please stay with me. There's a scene in particular, and this has been my brain since I finished watching it before this episode. There's a scene where Kevin Keller is like talking about Betty, and he's saying like, "Oh my God, Archie got hot. Great, fantastic. KJ Apa, great looking dude." But then he says something on the lines of, "Well, he's a straight white millennial." They're not millennials. They're not millennials. They're supposed to be Gen Zers.
You're right.
What the hell? That bothered me. That's all I got to say. But
man, that's the least of the inconsistencies you should be worried about. Like, wait till you get to the time jump. Wait till you get to all.
There's a time jump?
don't. I shouldn't say anything else.
There's a time. Listen, I only remember watching season one of River. No, I watched one and a half, and then I just dropped off by accident in season two. But aside from that, before I get ahead of myself, my initial thoughts on this episode, it made me remember that I forgot that this season one was a lot more serious compared to the later seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Even the seasons where, because I'm pretty sure the second half of season two onwards, before they started doing the weird kooky shit, that's when it just became cheesy. And season one, writing wise, had a more like elevated type of serious vibe, even with the cheesy stuff compared to the other ones, from what I could tell. But I noticed that it was a lot more mature. I noticed that visually it looked great. It looked very cinematic, surprisingly, and the acting wasn't that bad in this first episode.
Oh yeah, like I gotta praise the Riverdale actors. Like they are amazing. Almost all of them, if not all of them. Like I don't want to single anybody out because they're. I mean, they're all great, but to me, but especially because like you know, considering how much they went through on the show, like they took it all on and they just did a great job in my opinion. Like especially KJ Appa, Lily Reinhart, Camila Mendez, even Cole Sprouse. Like, but even the adults, like I think they did some great casting on the show.
They did some amazing casting, I'd say. Within this first episode, uh, Cami Mendez. At first, I was kind of like it was kind of questionable, but then towards the second half of the episodes where she like really amped it up, and I think it's a pilot, so a lot of times actors don't really they're getting to know their characters and whatnot. But I think the acting was really solid within this first episode. Episode like kind of gave me Twin Peaks vibes, and I've never even watched Twin Peaks, but I got those vibes.
Yeah, I've never seen Twin Peaks either, but like this show will make you aware of Twin Peaks if you've never seen Twin Peaks. Because first of all, you've got Machen Amick, who I believe is like a veteran of Twin Peaks. Like
Yes,
I
she
think
is.
she's one of the main characters, and so she's playing Betty's mom, and she's ever present, and she is bonkers. Like I gotta say, when I was rewatching this episode, the first moment that made me laugh out loud, even though it wasn't a scene that was meant to be funny, but it's like right in the beginning. Okay, so you see Cheryl and her brother Jason. They're going for their little weird river date. He doesn't come back.
Their
Uh,
their weird boat ride.
let's
Let's
keep
address
moving.
let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay, we'll do it. Okay.
I wrote it down, and I would even argue this was the same vibes in some of the Archie comics, especially Afterlife. Um, it's giving incest. It's
Yeah,
giving incest. It is
yeah.
giving that, and yeah. And I don't know where the show was going, and I think the show kind of knew it, and they just hammed it up. Mm.
hmm Yeah, it was a choice. I don't know if it was the best choice. As the show goes on, they kind of pretty much say they don't really have an incestuous relationship. Like they're just really close.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
they're just really close, but like they're not that close. Because you do find out in this first episode that Jason was with Polly,
yeah.
and then later on you find out that Cheryl is a lesbian. So like it doesn't like she's not even into dudes. So like it's a like there's a lot going on here. But I want to get to after that. So we find out Jason is dead. Jughead is narrating, but then you see the parents and people like out by the river, and you see Betty's parents, and the first line that Alice, Betty's mom, says is, um, "What did she say? I hope that he." She said,
I hope that he like dies or he
"She's like, I
suffers.
hope he's dead. I hope he suffered in his last moments. I hope he burns in hell." I'm like, "Damn,
Yes, it was
Alice,
burned in hell.
that is what did this child do to you? That is a child, like, who's
A
dead. Like,
15-year-old, mind you, or no,
yeah."
16 or something. Still a
I was like,
kid.
that
Still a kid.
I was like, that's an unhinged thing to say, but that's Alice, and that's consistent, honestly, as it goes through the show.
You know, speaking of Alice Cooper, not the Rock Band person, but Alice Cooper, Betty's mom. Uh, she was giving Karen.
She very
She
much gives
was
Karen.
like she was in like the best way possible. But honestly, I can't even think of that scene properly now because I wasn't laughing at it. But since you brought it up, it's
Yeah,
making it funny.
it's not meant to be funny, but like having seen the show, seen all seasons of the show, and knowing how big of an antagonist Alice becomes for Betty and everybody, it's just funny to me. Like I never really understood the choices they made with Alice, but it made for entertaining drama, I guess.
Hmm.
Like it was very heightened, it was very ridiculous, like over the top, but she embraced it and she kept it moving.
She did. Like I said, everybody in this show, they was chomping those like they was chopping their roll. They liked it. They did their role well. The only big question I have, well, no, not the only, but like another big question that I have is where the hell is Veronica's house? Because how the hell is it that like Riverdale is a small town, yet whenever we go to Veronica's house, there's like a city background, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, if Riverdale is Riverdale, I'm just gonna assume there's a downtown Riverdale. Maybe there is.
I mean, you can, but there was a line halfway through this episode where Kevin meets Veronica and he tells her what's in town. There's nothing but a strip club called the Ho Zone. I was like, there's a strip club called the
The
Ho Zone in
Hozode.
Riverdale.
Actually,
They never mention it again.
Riverdale doesn't even strike me as the place to have a strip club.
Ooh, well, they have more than you will expect if you continue to watch this show. That's all I can say. But
There's a lot of Easter eggs in this episode. I noticed too, like a lot of Easter eggs, which I kind of liked
yeah,
it because, like, I know that like the writer Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, he wrote this, and he also was the showrunner for season one, or was he showrunner for the entirety of the show?
yes, and that's
Oh,
like props to him. Like I can't give him enough credit for that because like this show, there's a lot I could say, but I'll save it for the end.
later on in the episode, we find out that Archie wants to do music. So what was your thoughts on the music? Archie shouldn't really be doing music. I'm sorry. All the all the music he was showing, it was trash. I'm sorry.
See, like I'm one of the minority of people who loves Archie's music. Like I'm a music teacher in my job. I play acoustic guitar and other
Okay,
things,
okay.
but so like I like it. I'm not gonna lie. I know most people don't like it. Most people hate the musical scenes and the songs in Riverdale. At least from what I see online. But I'll be the one be like, okay, Archie, go ahead.
No, okay, okay. Like the way Archie was like they were like listening to Archie's stuff, it was giving that one friend the vibes I was getting was that like you ever have that one friend who like it had or acquaintance or whatever who really wants to do music and you just don't have the heart to tell him it's not that good. That's the vibes that Archie was giving. But I will say this though, I do like the musical stuff within Riverdale. I love seeing the Pussycats. I love I even like the musical episodes that did come out. And listen, I was a theater kid, so I fucking love musical shit. But I don't know, I'm honestly genuinely curious. Did his music get a little bit better within the first season? Because I don't really remember it.
Yes, like there's this one song that I love. It's called "I Got You." He sang it with one of the Pussycats. I listen to that song all the time. But but yeah, I mean, it might not be everyone's taste. Like, I mean, some songs are better than others. It's all subjective. What can
Hmm.
I say? That's why he's reaching out to Miss Grundy, presumably. I mean, we find out there's a lot more going on there, and it's a mess. But
What was your thoughts on the Miss Grundy and Archie situation?
hate it. I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. This is the worst thing about the show for me. Like, I feel like I don't feel like that's an exaggeration because, like, again, I'm a music teacher, so I take this personally. I'm like, Like she needs to get her act together and stop messing with Archie. Stop messing with these kids. It makes me so sad. It's out of pocket, unacceptable. I just can't stand it. And they never fix it. Like they try to undo it a couple times, but they just don't. They make it worse, honestly, in my opinion. So
I think I'm thinking about it right now. I remember because like when I was younger, I didn't really think too much of it because I was a teenager when I was watching this. But then as I'm like older now, and I was watching it, I was like, this episode slash show would have been a lot better if they didn't, at least the first season, if they like. I don't think the sleeping with a teacher subplot was necessary. I felt
it
like,
wasn't necessary. I completely agree. Like just let Miss Grundy be old.
yeah,
Please. Like every other Archie project, she's old and just there's no affairs. Like it's not necessary. Like I think it was just done for like the scandal of it, like for
yeah,
like
for the shock
the first
value.
the shock value. Like, but then after having watched 7 seasons, I'm like, what are they doing on this show? Like I don't even know. I can't.
It kind of
There's some
was.
questionable things for sure.
It kind of was just like you just added in there for shock value, and it kind of. What was the point of adding this into the story? Are you going to make a commentary on how this was really really wrong and she took advantage of Archie? But you guys didn't really do that, at least to what I remember for season one. They didn't really focus on that.
No, I agree. Like they would have a few characters here and there say, "Oh, that's bad. You gotta stop that." But like, they never really. Well, I would say Riverdale likes to have its cake and eat it too. So like on
Mm,
the one hand, like they would have some characters say it was bad or they would try to stop what was going on. But on the other hand, like you were saying earlier, this show was very quick to like sexualize Archie,
mm-hmm.
sexualize these teenagers, like to like portray these relationships and like I don't know, like all I can really say is that yeah, I kind of wish they hadn't done that. I mean, I do kind of get when I watch just this one episode, I'm like, well, there is something interesting going on here with the fact like Archie's relationship with Miss Grundy is what ruins his relationship with Betty.
Mm-hmm.
And it also complicates his relationship with Veronica. So like he's got three girls in his like point of view, and like he's actually like pretty much like blind to like the girls who are his age. but that's
Exactly.
be- but that's because he was sexually abused. Like he like this woman preyed on him and it's messed up his mind and it continues to mess up his mind for the rest of the show, unfortunately.
And it's interesting because it's like the way that the show poses it because it kind of like tells you like the way Archie acts, it shows, hey, you're not getting over this older woman because this shit happened to you. But the show isn't flat out being like, yo, this is the story we're trying to tell. This is wrong. This is wrong. Instead, it's just leaving a
Yeah.
lot to the imagination to piece it together. And then on top of that, I think it kind of just felt like they didn't know what to do with Archie. I think one of the things I remember leaving out of Riverdale was because Archie didn't really have much of a character within the first season, at least something that I've noticed. A lot of the character development went towards everybody else but Archie within season one, from what I remember. And I remember watching Riverdale and then also reading Wade's run because I read Wade's run during when I was reading Riverdale. Watching Riverdale, and I remember reading Wade's run, and I was looking at the comparisons, and you could tell that in Riverdale they did pull a couple of things from Wade's thing. But I was reading and I was like, I kind of wish Archie had more of like what Wade's personality. Like,
Yeah.
just he could be serious, but
I,
like still comedic.
I agree. Like, first of all, let me say Mark Waid is one of my favorite comic book writers. He's a legend. He's done so much over so many decades, and they're all like so many great stories. So I recommend people check those out if they haven't already. But yeah, like you're right. They didn't know what to do with Archie on Riverdale. I've heard stories like Roberto Aguirre Sacasa's like, well, I thought KJ wanted to do dramatic acting, so like I kept giving him like this like dark brooding persona, and then but everybody was like, no, that's not it, because KJ in real life is like a goofy, silly guy. He's like almost like Jim Carrey, it seems like, when you see like behind the scenes footage. And like um so then in season 7, they finally let Archie do some comedy and just be silly and be young, and he's a good actor. Like, he can do both. Like, I think he
Mm.
did the dramatic and the comedic very well. But it's but yeah, it's a different take on Archie for sure, because like the Archie I knew from the comics was, first of all, clumsy. We never see a clumsy Archie in this show. Second
Yeah.
of all, he's not really hot. Like, he's like an average kid. Like, he's like he has these two girls who are into him, but he's not like some kind of stud walking down the street. So like they definitely CW'd him up for this show.
In the words of Kevin Keller, Archie's hot.
Right? Yeah. Like, that is one of the most memorable lines of the pilot. And it's true. KJ Appa's hot. I gotta say, I'm personally glad that they dyed KJ Appa's hair, because
Same.
Archie is an iconic redhead. That's part of his whole deal. Like, like, if he has a personality trait, it's that he's a ginger. I guess. And I mean, I hate that online sometimes you see these debates about. You know what I'm about to talk about, right? You know what I'm about to say.
The ginger side that is
Yeah,
like
the ginger side debates.
it's a veil for racism.
Yes, yes. Like, every time they add diversity to a cast, occasionally, I mean, sometimes it happens to be the redheaded character, and then people are mad. They're like, "What about the redheads?" And I'm like, "You still got plenty of redheads. Like, at least for this show, you can't complain, because you got Archie, you got Cheryl, you got their whole family." So, but then you've got like Josie, who in the comic books is another white redhead, but here she's black, and I love that. Like, I love Ashley Murray. If this is the time to talk about it, let me know, or I can save that for later.
Actually, this is the time to talk about it. This is the time to talk about it.
Okay, I love Ashley Murray. Like, I love her. Like, this show introduced me to her. I love Pussycats. Like you said, they were cool. The movie was cool, but like this version of the Pussycats, where they're all black and they're all talented, and like, I don't know, I just love it. And I was like rooting for them the entire show, and so I've been trying to follow her projects outside of this. Like, she just did a show on Hulu called The Other Black Girl, where she was the titular character.
Mhm.
It was great. She did a great job. She tried to spin off into like Katie Keene, and
I
she
heard
she
about
did a
that.
great job. Like, I watched the show for her. I didn't watch it. I was mad about Katie Keene. I was mad that Katie Keene got top billing, but Josie deserved it, because she was actually on Riverdale. Like, she put in the work.
Didn't they
But
use a
anyway,
lot of Josie's like supporting cast in Katie Keene?
yes, like her mom showed up. Like they used all the Josie and the Pussycats characters. Like, it was basically a Josie show, and Katie Keene was there. I mean,
It would have been better if they just made it a Josie and the Pussycat show, if I'm being quite honest with you. And I think that's one of the problems I had with Riverdale, too. It's like, I personally didn't have a problem with making all the Pussycats black. However, I will say, I still love my girl Valerie.
hmm
Valerie is great. Um, but
and props to Valerie for being one of the first black characters in a cartoon on TV. Period. Like the old Josie and the Pussycats cartoon. I think she's one of the first black cartoon characters.
I think she is. Oh god, I just remember somebody posted that clip where like Alexandra was in this bush. They Valerie started punching the fuck out of her and shit.
Yeah, I
Oh
seen that
god,
one.
like she was giving her the two piece. But
Yes.
no, I gotta say that like I think the problem that I had with Riverdale, with the Pussycats, you guys made them black, fine, include that diversity, but you didn't do anything with it. You didn't give them enough shit to do. And at that point, it's just giving, oh, we just did this just to throw in some diversity instead of actually giving more story there. Like, honestly, y'all should have been focusing on a spinoff for Josie and the Pussycats. You guys should have been
Yeah.
focusing on connecting them into the storylines more. Because every time they were on screen, from what I remember from season 1 and 2, I was hella invested. I was even invested when Archie had a thing with Valerie in season 2.
That's what I'm
What
saying.
was
Yeah.
that season? No,
It
season
was it
2.
was one.
Oh, season 1?
It was one, and then I think like for a minute he tried to go back, but it didn't work. She was like, "Nah."
I do remember she curbed his ass. I remember that she really, and the way she did it was so fucking mature. And it always seems like it's always like that's a whole other conversation when it
Right.
comes to
There's a
writing.
lot. We could have a whole podcast about this, but I would just say that unfortunately, this show was not about Josie and the Pussycats.
We went on a couple of different tangents within this episode, but you know what? This turned in more into a Riverdale retrospective with also us talking about the pilot. And I think what was the okay? I think a good encapsulation for the wildness that's within Riverdale is the random lesbian kiss between Vanessa and Betty. And then even the show kind of made fun of it, and then was like, okay, all right, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, wow, you guys are really just adding sex in, just for the just for it. But you know what? As a kid, actually, I think even when I was a teenager, I was like, okay, that's random.
I will say, like, I do identify as queer. Like, the showrunner Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, he's gay. So, there's a lot of queer characters and queer storylines in this show. It does have a large queer audience, um, and that's great. This first episode, that kiss was very like queer baity, and they do acknowledge it. They're like even Cheryl's like, "That's so 2004," like whatever she says. It's
She said 1994.
oh yeah, whatever. Like yeah, she's like we're over it. Like it's not shocking. But it was kind of cliche by that point because they weren't gonna like hook up. But I have to say, if you stick with this show by season 7, somehow.
Don't they have a polyamorous relationship? The show ends with them in like a whole polyamorous relationship.
Well, yes, but like there is a specific arc between Betty and Veronica where you see them uh kind of getting closer and really like you just like wondering what's going on with this show.
Uh,
like like I feel like I just have to say as a queer viewer, like I have high standards for representation. And like I just feel like I was always kind of disappointed that a lot of the queer characters on this show weren't played by queer actors. At least they weren't openly queer. So like Kevin, Cheryl, Tony, like all these queer characters are not queer in real life, apparently. Um, but
Not
but Betty
Kevin?
though, no. Like I'm pretty sure like he's been on records many times talking about his girlfriend. Like if you read even the interviews, he'd be like, like I have a girlfriend. So, and that's great for him. I'm not
Okay,
knocking it.
okay.
I'm just saying, but that's the point though. Like Kevin, he is not like Kurt from Glee. He's more like Blaine from Glee, which is like another straight actor playing gay, and and there's implications behind that. And it's like I have to. I'll try to give the show some props because like Lily Reinhart has come out as bi,
True.
and so like the way that they did her storyline and allowed her in the end to explore relationships with girls or at least a girl or several girls actually. um, you know, like I think at least they did that. Maybe I don't know. I mean, it's a whole can of worms.
Freddie, since you're the guest here, do you, on a scale of 5, how would you rate Riverdale Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot? And do you think this episode will stand the test of time?
Tough questions. So 1 to 5, 5 being the best.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm. This episode.
Yes.
Hmm. Uh, I will give it a 4.
Hmm.
So like, cause I feel like it was above average. Like it was a show that made people take notice and like want to keep watching. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I'll knock a point off for all the stuff I didn't like about it.
Okay. Okay.
What about you?
I would say, I want to give it a 3. I want to give
Mm.
it a 3. I would say that it is a good pilot. It tells you what you're getting into. It does.
I gotta say, like watching this pilot in particular, it's astonished me just how much of the stuff that was in this pilot remain consistent throughout the entire show. Like the characterization of everybody is there. Like all the seeds for the plot lines is there. Like whether you like them or not, like like it's carried on and it's interesting.
No, I really do think that this episode, like you said, it feels very consistent. Like it tells you what you're getting into. Like if you're watching Riverdale and this is your cup of tea, no, you know what you're finna get into after this first episode. And I think that characterization wise, I was kind of surprised at how each episode, like Riverdale, it isn't 100% one to one the comics, but you can tell in certain aspects that the person writing it has a lot of love and attention to detail towards those characters. And it's weird.
Do they though?
I mean,
Myself,
I,
I have to ask myself. I'm like, did the people who made this episode did they hate Archie comics or do they love Archie comics or is it both? Like it's kind of
I think it's a
weird to
mixture of the
me.
two because, like,
Maybe.
something I was thinking about was how, like, the main characters, they have some of their base level characteristics. Like, even Archie, him being kind of clueless, that makes sense. Betty, to me, kind of feels very close to herself. Veronica isn't as self centered, but she still has that type of rich girl attitude.
Yeah, I gotta say, I loved what they did with Veronica in this first episode. They instantly tell you, like, okay, she's rich, she's posh, but she's new in town, but she's not a bitch. Like, she just because she's rich doesn't mean she's a bitch. Like,
Mm-hmm.
now you do have Cheryl on the other hand, who is the popular rich mean girl. Um, but I like that there's a contrast with Veronica. Like, she's ice and Cheryl is fire or whatever.
No, but I would say yeah.
Betty's the nice one. Betty's the nice girl.
Betty's a nice girl. I would say that this episode, I think it's gonna. I think this episode is dated. I think this show,
It is.
I think the show Riverdale isn't going to age well. But I sometimes wonder if years from now people will look back on this show and kind of like it for what it is. And I kind
I
of
mean,
feel like that might happen. I don't know. What was your thoughts on Riverdale, Soups? Or what was your thoughts on this first episode of Riverdale? Be sure to let us know on Instagram at Super Saturdays Podcast, TikTok at Super Saturdays Pod, and Twitter at Super Saturdays PC. Your messages and reviews can make their way on the show. This was Super Saturdays. I'm Damon.
and I'm Freddie. You can find me at DMVCBN. That's short for DMV Comic Book Nerds, and you can find DMVCBN primarily on, I want to say Threads right now, but I guess I'm still on Twitter or I guess X or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but yeah, I love to engage with fans of Riverdale comics in general, all that stuff. So thanks for having me on tonight.
Of course. Thanks for hopping on. All right. Well, as always, see you next Saturday, Soups.